God, and you only, have I committed this sin. See, there's one thing that David did. He tried to get it right, but that mistake, that viper, began to destroy everybody in his life. Parents, I'm telling you that if you don't start dealing with a mess in your life right now, and even if you come to God and pray on your knees, your children will be destroyed unless you stop this snake where he lies. You don't believe me. You do not believe me. In the truest sense, like father, like son. I'm going to 2 Samuel, and I'm now turning to 2 Samuel, chapter 13. And when I go to 2 Samuel, chapter 13, I find an incident getting ready to take place. David has a lot of children now. And as you go to 2 Samuel chapter 13, you just mark that in your Bible and keep your finger there. That's a story about 3 people. Now we're going to get into some lust and some incest and some rape and some murder from David's sons and daughters. Oh, and lest I forget, we said that David had many concubines and wives. Please let me put this in. His son Solomon, the third king, 700 wives and 300 prostitutes in his palace. Where do you think Solomon got that from? His daddy, David. See, that wasn't part of the Jewish culture. God told him in Deuteronomy 17:17, don't do that. Solomon looked at his daddy and said, Daddy can do it. I can do it. I'd like to know what kind of music you Christians are listening to on your radio. Mama listened to those FM stations that play all that stuff. I can do it. I see Mama going to the nightclub and shaking her behind all over the floor. I can do it. No, I see Daddy drinking a little alcohol now and then. Well, heck, I can do it. What David did, his children did. There was a theologian, his name is White, and he wrote about Solomon, and this is what he said. Thought that I'd copy it down. The shipwreck of Solomon is surely the most terrible tragedy in all the world. For if ever there was a shining type of Christ in the Old Testament church, it was Solomon. I don't know whether you know about this man, but God gave this man more wisdom than he ever gave any human being that lived on the planet. But because Solomon had that viper reproduced in him from his daddy, it destroyed him. Oh, when Sheba, this queen, came to Jerusalem and said, I have to come to Jerusalem to look at this man Solomon's dynasty. When she got to Jerusalem, she looked around and saw all of this gold and all of that, and she said, oh my God, the half hasn't been told. Solomon was on his way out because he was a lustful man. White goes on and he says this, but everyday sensuality made him, Solomon, in the end a castaway. Solomon stands as a disappointing figure in Hebrew history. Solomon starts like a cloudless dawn of a summer's mornings, might have been beautiful all through his life, but it ended in gloom because he wandered into the forbidden paths. How about some of us? Where are we wandering? Have you put a lid on that mouth of yours, you gossips? Have you put a lid on that foul language when somebody makes you mad, you foul language users? Did you know that every time you curse in front of your children, you are giving them the opportunity to use that kind of language? And when they start talking like you talk, Mama and Daddy, don't hit them. Rejoice in them. They're merely imitating you. Your children will be no better, no worse in some cases than you are. I thought that I would read that about Solomon before we got into his other children. Now, I find some interesting words here. Let me just give you the story, youngsters, so that you can understand it. Amnon was David's oldest boy, born of a different mother than Tamar and the other son that is going to kill him, Absalom. But let me give you a little background. Amnon was the oldest from one of David's wives. And if you know anything about Jewish history, the oldest son has the birthright. Now, David has all these children from all these wives, and David, of course, married Abigail and had some beautiful children, and two of his children from one of his beautiful wives was Tamar and Absalom. Now, these two specimens of human beings were beautiful. Tamar was fine. And Amnon, the oldest boy, each of these people had their own houses now. They didn't all live in the palace. They were rich. They had their own house. And the way it goes, if you read it, Amnon looked at his half-sister and lusted after her. Now, you've got to ask this question, where did that boy get that from? His daddy's snake. His daddy's Domino. The viper came up in his son. Amnon looked at Tamar, his sister, and lusted for her in the cruelest way. And he made himself sick. And Amnon's cousin, David's brother's son, saw him this way and said, Amnon, what's the matter, cuz? And he said, man, have you seen Tamar? Look at her. Man, I can't go to work. I can't eat. I can't do nothing. She is turning me on. And I'm obsessed with myself. Oh, it's in the text. I'm not making this up. This is Bible. I know what you want. You want that kind of a sermon? Oh, that doesn't happen. That same mess that's deep down within you was in this man, and his son inherited it. God said, don't worry, brother. Go to your daddy David. Get him to let your half-sister Tamar come to your house and feed you. Tell him you sick. Amnon goes to his daddy and says, Daddy, please send Tamar, my sister, to my house to feed me from her hand that I might get well. Oh, stupid, no-thinking daddy. Domino number one. Done tilted already. Solomon's all full of it. Amnon's now working and scheming into the situation. Listen to me. David said, Tamar, go over and feed your brother. Parent, you need to start using your head. Are you that stupid to know that if your son comes to you like that, he doesn't want his sister to feed him? There's a snake there somewhere. What happens? Tamar goes there and Amnon says, oh, half-sister, you're so fine. Lie with me. So I can't do that. I would appear to be a whore and you would appear to be one of these fools. That's folly in Israel. And the scriptures tells me that Amnon raped her, ravished her, took her. She got up, she left his house, she tore her garments, which was a sign that the whole world will know. Look at what my brother did to me. Pay attention to me, parents. I know what you're thinking. God would never let anything like that happen in my house. I am a Christian. You're blind. If something's within you, it would be within them. You're stupid. You're walking around like David with your eyes closed. My child tells me the truth. They lie to you. Amnon lied to his father. The other brother, Absalom.